Hello everybody, so I thought I'd do a little bit of an intro whilst my coffee is loudly making. But welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while since I did my last one. I can't actually remember whether I've done one since I've been in this diet phase, but I realised that my diet phase is actually coming to an end next week, so I'll be checking in today and I'll run you guys through that. And I was like, oh, okay, I should probably actually do a little bit of a wrap up, because I do want to take you guys through sort of what a diet phase in the off season kind of looks like for me, like what we're looking for, how we're managing that, and just generally how we're kind of planning things moving forwards when it comes to my competitive goals as well. So today I'm just going to kind of take you through a day in terms of what that looks like, what the setup looks like, obviously what food looks like, cardio, etc. And yeah, just give you a little bit of an insight on that side of things. But so far this morning I have done a 10-minute walk just on the treadmill whilst AJ does his cardio. Then I did 35 minutes on the recumbent bike, and now I'll just come down, I'll do about an hour's worth of work, and then I will check in with AJ before I have meal one. So I will catch you guys at my check-in. Is that better?
Nice. Yep. Nice.
Okay, so here I am actually making my meal one. I'll be honest, when AJ comes in the room, I don't really like speaking to the camera, so I am doing a voiceover on some of these meals. But meal one is simply 100 grams of berries, 30 grams of whey, and then mixed with 10 grams of Nutridyne greens, which I think this has been the same across the diet, so it's not really changed at all. So I had this in my last video when I updated my diet too, so I just make that into a nice sludge and pour that over my berries, and that always sits very, very nicely as the first meal for the day. Alright, so that is meal one eaten. I've just done a few little tasks. I have sent my voice note over to AJ because I still send him my voice note, still complete my sheets and everything, so he can get a full wrap up of my week. And then I'm going to go out for a walk now, just get some more steps in. So I've already done like a good few thousand, but I like to spread my steps over the day between like 2,000 and 3,000, like 4,000 max at a time, just so that I'm not basically accumulating a load of fatigue and like smashing my knees as well, because that's definitely the biggest thing that I notice. So I'm going to go out for a walk now. I'm going to come back, and then I think I'm going to do a podcast recording today. I'm going to do a solo episode, so I'll probably take you guys through that when I get back. I was going to take the camera with me, and then I realised it's a Sunday and there's probably going to be a lot of people out on the path, and that's just moderately embarrassing. So I may film some bits on my phone if I want to, but for the most part I'll just go and enjoy a nice podcast, have some time to switch off. I definitely realise when I'm dieting how much I enjoy having this routine of like doing my cardio, going out more, because it is easier to drop off from that when, you know, you're heavier and you're eating more, and like you're not having to really chase a set step goal or do as many steps, because generally I will accumulate a good amount of steps in the house anyway, so I don't often go out for walks unless I'm dieting. So, you know, it is nice to definitely have that. That lighting's terrible. To definitely have that in place now. So yeah, gonna go on a little walk, and then I'll catch you guys in a bit. I also did mean to say that you will have probably just seen a little snippet of my check-in, and I looked back at it and you can see like at the start how I go from like relaxed then into my like front relaxed pose, which is obviously a pose shot, but you can see the difference between how different I look just stood relaxed versus when I actually hit pose, especially in my lower body. Like, I'm super flat at the moment, don't get me wrong, and I'll run you guys through like where I'm at and why I'm feeling that way once I get my feedback from AJ. But yeah, it's cool and it's important to like display that, because I want people to know that even when they see a pose check-in update, I don't look like that all the time. Like, most athletes, I mean, even assisted athletes, like, don't always look massive when they're stood relaxed, you know? Like, I think it's important to know that unless you're really shredded and unless you are like huge, you're probably just gonna look like lovely but normal most of the time. And that's something that I've definitely gotten a lot better at over this diet, specifically in terms of appreciating it. Like, the hot weather has forced me to spend a bit more time in outfits like this, which usually I wouldn't do, and just appreciating like my body for what it is, and not always viewing it as, oh well, how competitive is it and how big do I look and do I look like a good bodybuilder, because Jesus Christ, it's not everything, and I need to be able to actually appreciate my body for my body and not always view it as an athlete, and a physique athlete as well. And that's always an important message that I share to my clients as well, so it's important that I share it on here too. I've kept trying to film little bits on this walk, and there's just been so many people going past, so I just keep hiding my phone and putting away. Look, I personally am intentionally walking in the shade right now because me and the heat, we don't mix very well, we don't get along very well. So I have to keep myself as far out of the sun as possible. I just get so fatigued through like being in the sun, and I burn really bad. Like, I'm naturally extremely fair. But one thing that's really weird that I was just thinking about, because I've done a like a bit of a Q&A for some questions that I was thinking I'd answer either on this video or on the podcast I'm going to do later. And the one thing that I've avoided doing lately with Q&As is putting up, this fly is so annoying. That's the worst thing about this stupid weather, is a fly. Is not doing those like anonymous Q&As. One, maybe like once or twice, because to be fair, some of the questions are like genuine questions, and some people don't want to put their questions up with like their Instagram tag. But oh my god, every time I do them, I just get so many horrible comments. Say like 75% of the questions that I get on there are just like either like inappropriate questions or just not even questions, just like people not saying very nice things. I personally don't need to surround myself with negativity, but if I was with somebody in person who said something like that to me, like, one, they probably wouldn't say it, or I would not be spending time around them. And social media obviously provides an opening for people to have a constant presence, when in a real life scenario you would be able to avoid that person or not spend time with them. So I try to make an active choice to just be careful with those things, like auditing the content that you consume, and the people that are exposed to your content as well is important. I like to see social media as something that positively contributes towards my well-being. Yes, it comes with some negatives, as everything does, but for the most part I try to use it for its positives. So I've actually just finished wrapping up a episode for the Natural Female Muscle podcast. I've done a solo episode, which I think I mentioned I was doing, talking about diet phases today, so you can see this up on the screen here. I don't know how I talk for so long in these episodes. I think I've done 52 minutes or something on that one, which is so bad. But I like to do them. I actually really enjoy the solo ones because I can kind of just ramble on about things and hopefully give more insight. It's like on YouTube, I can't really talk for very long, but at least podcasts, I know that people will hopefully listen to them. But yeah, I'm going to make meal 2 now, and I'll talk you guys through that. Alright, so personally in my second meal, which I'm actually having, it is almost 1 p.m. now, which is actually a little bit later than I usually would do my second meal on a rest day. I do have my meals a bit later, obviously, on a rest day compared to a training day, but both myself and AJ had some podcasts and just interrupted normal time, so Usually I'd have this about 12, so I often have first meal at about 9, second meal at about 12, so I do space them apart a little bit. Further on a rest day, especially the first couple of meals, we can meal now. Just doing both of mine and AJ's meats together. I, in this meal, literally just have 100 chicken, veggies, and some dark chocolate, I think. So literally just protein, fat. So my first meal was literally just protein and berries, as you saw. And then I have protein, fat for my meal 2. And then I have a little bit of carbs with meals 3 and 4. And then meal 5, I do protein, fat again. I just realised you can't actually see me in this. So that's what my food generally looks like for the day. But yeah, this meal is literally just some chicken, some veg, some dark chocolate, and that will go in shortly. And these are also the veggies that I have at the moment. They're also just super easy for me to make and to prep on a daily basis, so I can literally pop them into the microwave, and then they're obviously ready just while the chicken cooks, which does literally save quite a lot of time. Makes it nice and efficient. Also make sure I'm getting in a nice variety of vegetables, and they're also just consistent. I've also just uploaded a couple of my shots and a little bit of an update on my vlog as per usual, so make sure that if you want to see sort of like all of my updates and like what I'm doing, and generally on a daily and weekly basis, obviously everything gets uploaded there and you can follow that along. Also, look how cool these are. We got these from the World Championships. I did not receive this as an award, but Lee let us sort of keep one for obviously being there and like helping out, and we were the headline sponsor with MBW, and they're super cool. Like, look how awesome those medals are, and they did like the B on the back for Manchester, so it's quite cool that we kind of get to keep one of these as a nice little memoir. So here we have my veggies, my chicken, a little bit of ketchup to go on the side, and my wonderful pile of dark chocolate to go as a nice little dessert. So I will eat this. I'll probably watch something. I have so much mess on my desk. That's terrible, I'm sorry. Probably just watch something on the telly, and then we'll crack on with the next sort of jobs for the day. What are you doing?
Rest day.
Why are you holding the camera like that?
I'm not. What?
What do we have here? Rest day monster.
No, tap
Wait,
it.
this is what AJ does before he has any fizzy drink. He goes like this. What is that doing?
It removes the fizz.
Why would you want to remove the fizz?
Oh, it stops it flowing over.
That? Yeah?
It does.
Nothing. Don't waste
Watch,
your
it won't fizz now. See, look. If you'd have not done that, it would have been all over the floor.
It doesn't matter if it's when I do it anyway. I'm not doing one of those flippy flip flops because I'll go through the fucking room. Straw in.
Oh, give us a taste test.
That first sip feeling.
Oh. Right.
So I'm going to put the video in where you did that, because that's not, I'm not doing that unironically. How's it taste?
Yummy.
Yummy?
First sip feeling.
Oh my god. Alright, so whilst I've got a little bit of a minute in between meals and doing some steps, I thought I'd actually sit down and give you a proper update with this diet phase, but also just my goals as a whole. So I actually put out a bit of a Q&A with relation to the podcast, but also thought I'd transition it over to this video as well. And one of the main questions that I got was, what actually are your goals now? And it's not something that I think I've actually spoken about properly, like either on Instagram or on YouTube, which I'll definitely go through in sort of like my next update. But I actually spoke about it a little bit more in the General Muscle podcast as I was speaking to Lawrence, and he was just asking me about my goals and, you know, where I'm at with relation to, you know, previous goals I've spoken about when it comes to women's bodybuilding as well. So for me currently at the moment, my set goal to get back on stage is still 2025. So many of you will know, if you've followed along or even watched the first video, I competed for the first time in 2020. The goal coming away from that was to take the step up to figure. And I kind of initially had set my sights on 2023 before ultimately realizing that I just wanted and needed a little bit more time to mentally and physically be at the level that I wanted, along with also for me it's about enabling the time to dedicate time to other things like my business growth, graduating from uni, a lot of the things that were also really important to me. So 2025 is still a year. That's given me 5 years from stage to stage, but realistically you're looking at like 3 to 4 years probably within that where I'm actually within a surplus. You know, the prep itself will be 6 months. There's also the diet phases that go within that. And when I compete in 2025, I will be competing in the class that I will be most competitive in at that point, which is looking like it will still be a figure for me. I've been super vocal about the fact that I have long-term goals to compete in women's bodybuilding, and that will still always be my number one goal. That will always be what I look towards doing, is being the best bodybuilder possible. And one day I really do want to compete as a women's bodybuilder, but I'm also very realistic and understand that when I compete in 2025, the muscularity, the maturity, I just won't be at that level yet. And that's okay, because at that point I will still be quite young, both training age wise, but also just generally in my age. Even in 2025 I won't have that maturity that is needed to display the muscle maturity or the condition that's required for either women's bodybuilding or women's physique. So it's likely that figure will still be where I go, and I think that that will still be a really strong spot for me, and I'm still excited about the prospect of that. Like, I'm not excited about doing other divisions, and I don't not respect like other divisions. I think that that's something that is really important for me to lay out. The thing for me is just about presenting myself in the place that is the most competitive or the best version of me possible, and wherever that lands me in terms of bodybuilding and competing criteria is where I will go. And I think that's where most females are, you know, unless you have a specific attachment to a class. Like, we're all ultimately just trying to be the best that we possibly can be. So that'll be the goal for 2025. Of course, this diet was just a little bit of a diet along the way within the off season. This will be a diet that sets up my growing for the remainder of 2023. So we've pulled off about 17 pounds now already. We're going to try and cap that off at about 18. So when I'm 130, 129, that was 130.8 this morning. So just another week to pull off another probably pound or two, and then reverse out of that and just have a really good stint of growing ahead of us in 2023. And that's exactly why we mapped out this diet phase at this point in the year, because we've done them before where we've done them later on in the year, which for me just doesn't work super well when we're traveling to shows and traveling abroad most weekends and having to move training around a lot, because my body is crazy responsive to stress. So I have to make sure that I manage things well to get a good diet phase completed, but then also a good exit out of the diet as well. So I'm really happy with how well that's gone. And then once we start to get into 2024 is when we will really start to map out the diet phase and the growing phases to get me in the best possible starting position for prep. So this next push phase will be probably my next like long proper push phase, and I still don't think I'll get as heavy as I did in my last push. That's probably the heaviest that I'm ever gonna get. I will sit a little bit lighter for the remainder of like this year and definitely next year as well, so that when I start my prep in 2025 I will be probably around this body weight, if not a little bit lighter, because where I'm at the moment I'm probably around 25 pounds off stage weight, I'd say at most. We don't know, it's really hard to tell when it's been so long since I was last stage lean, and the comparison is just so different with the change in my physique since then, when it comes to muscularity, when it comes to the condition that I want to present on stage, and all those things. It is hard to predict, but just purely based on where we can see things body comp wise. And that'll probably shift a little bit into next year and into 2025 as well, but we'll probably want to be starting around the high 120s is roughly where we're estimating at the moment. So we'll see, but that's just to enable me to have a prep where I'm not having to, you know, go under a really aggressive rate of loss. We can afford for times where we implement diet breaks, we implement refeeds, because like I said, my body's really stress responsive, and that will enable me to manage that prep better and manage the look a lot better and manage training a lot better across the prep too. For a lot of people, that seems a bit silly to be mapping it out so long and being so meticulous for so long, because that's ultimately what that requires. You know, it requires nailing your pre-prep phases, nailing the phases before the prep starts, you know, when food is actually getting higher, making sure that body composition isn't getting sloppy or routine isn't getting sloppy. And you do have to be really on it for a good period of time. But for me, that's not really a problem, just because I love to do it. So I don't mind that. That doesn't make me feel fearful about how, you know, intense my bodybuilding processes will have to be, because it's like that year round anyway. So if I can manage it to make the process better and make the outcome better, then ultimately, you know, that's definitely what I want to do. So that's kind of how things are looking, you know, moving forwards. I mean, you guys saw where my physique's at the moment, but I'm sure I'll maybe put some shots up here just so you can see some of my updated shots with where I'm at right now. But, you know, I'm just ready to get back to growing, I think, again now, and definitely appreciating that this phase isn't, you know, really reflective of truly where my physique will be at when I step on stage, because this is the thing with like midi diets and shorter diet phases. I spoke about this on today's podcast, is that you basically sit in that stage where you're like flat but fat. Like, you're not at your peak of your like pushing phase where yes, you're carrying more body fat, but you're like bursting full, and you're also not at the point where you're actually quite lean and you have lines in your physique. You're just a little bit leaner but not really that lean and really flat. So it's hard for you to truly be able to judge your physique at that point, and that's something that I have to separate myself from, and AJ does a fantastic job at kind of reminding me of why I am where I am. And that's ultimately what you have to do, is appreciate the purpose of the phase that you're in, you know, understand why you're there, the fact that it's helping you to reset or to have another good productive phase moving forwards, and to ultimately carry you towards that end goal. But at the same time, still appreciating every part of the process and not forgetting to be proud of, you know, where you're at and what you've already achieved is definitely really important. But yeah, hopefully that gives like a good kind of wrap up on where I'm at right now, what the goals are moving ahead. And I do look forward to being able to share a little bit more of that as, you know, this year goes on, definitely next year, sharing more of the pre-prep, getting ready for the prep, and then definitely sharing the prep in 2025, which will be lots and lots of fun. But of course, if anyone has any questions on that, do definitely just let me know. And I'm just coming through with another voiceover for my meal 3. So this is 35 grams of oats, 30 grams of whey, and 100 grams of berries. I have this because it's just so much more satiating. I make it in advance and then I pop it in the freezer, and then it is good to go. So it is now shortly after 5:30, and by this time on a rest day, I've usually pretty much finished everything. So most of the house job's finished, work is finished, and all of my kind of like tasks for the day are done. So cardio obviously did this morning, all of my steps are boxed off, so just finished off the last of my steps, so hit the 15k mark. I'll probably get a few more steps in before I go to bed, but I like to intentionally finish off my step goal, and then if a few steps kind of rack up at the end of the day as I finish my last couple of meals or whatever it is, then they just kind of add on from there. So now I have 2 meals left, so I get to have my meal 4, chill in between my meal 4 and 5, and then meal 5 and watch a little bit of something and go to bed. So it is now time for my favourite meal of the day. I'm just going to put the air fryer on. This is my salmon and rice meal, and those who have dieted and had salmon in their diet know that it just hits a spot. It just hits the spot differently. So I most definitely just ran out of storage there because the camera just died on me, which is moderately rude. But as I was saying, I'm going to prep my salmon now. The salmon that I have is this wild Alaskan sockeye salmon, which, by the way, is literally like the best salmon ever. Honestly, I don't know the ins and outs. I've seen Cuba talk about this more in depth, so I'm not gonna pretend I'm like a salmon connoisseur. But it's actually a lot lower in fat than like your standard salmon fillet, which you might get is like 17 grams of fat for a fillet. These are 5 grams, I believe, which isn't really like the purpose of having them to have lower fat, because they've still got their omegas in them, but they actually now just taste a lot better. Like, they sent us some substitutes because they ran out of this one in the online shop, and I was annoyed because I had to substitute all my fats from that for the rest of the day, and it honestly didn't even taste as nice. Like, this tastes like proper fish, and it's actually really, really, really nice. So highly recommend this Alaskan sockeye salmon fillet from M&S, but I know that they do them pretty much anywhere else, just the wild ones are beautiful. This is where you have to be so careful that the skin doesn't get stuck to the foil. So that's everything nicely chopped up. I have the one salmon fillet, some more veggies, and 50 grams of rice in this meal. And then on top of it, as always, I will add some pink Himalayan salt onto this meal, and a little bit of low salt on that as well. And then I always add on this meal some teriyaki marinade. This is relatively low in calories for like the amount I put on. I think there's like 8 or 9 calories in it, but it's always consistent as well, so I always just add this onto this meal. It's 9 calories, which at this point is not making a huge difference, but it makes my food a lot nicer, and it's exactly the same. So obviously if I was like putting loads more on it or anything like that, then that would be a problem, but it's the same every time, and it is actually very, very, very nice. But yeah, I'm gonna go and actually sit next door to eat this, because I spend probably like 90% of my day like sat in here or sat at that table eating my meals and doing my work and stuff, so it's nice to go and sit somewhere else and actually like switch off now. Yeah, that is everything in here. I like to mix it all up together so it looks like a nice colourful dish of food. I'm going to go and thoroughly enjoy this now. Oh my god! AJ, he's not the best guy. I wish people can see you right now. You're not like Al Chow on the camera. Al Chow on the visuals. Alright, last meal now. Basically the same as my first meal, but I've got fats in this meal. Stop moving.
I'm panning.
Okay, I have 100 berries, 30 grams of isolate, same again, and then I have 30 grams of dark chocolate in this meal.
100 berries?
100 berries. Just...
Have you counted each berry?
Well, yeah, it generally works out as 12 berry.
12 berry?
12 berry.
Is that how you do your clients' meal plans?
12 berries, meal 1. 6 broccoli, meal 2.
6 broccoli.
What was the other one?
One toast.
One toast. There was something else that we thought of the other day that was really good. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Good night, everybody.
Hope you enjoyed.
Happy berry.
Comment berry.
Comment berry down below. Great. Hey guys, so I'm just wrapping up this video. Obviously took you through the full day yesterday, the full day of eating as well. Like I say, if anyone has any questions with everything, do just let me know. But I do hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you really enjoyed my sort of full breakdown when it comes to my competitive goals and where I'm at, because I know I sometimes don't do a good enough job at kind of talking about those things, but I'm hoping to do a full update on my Instagram as well once I finish my diet next week. But yeah, really enjoyed actually doing this video again. It's nice to share things and just have a little bit of a ramble on some topics as well. So, you know, if you have made it this far to the end, you're an absolute legend, and I really, really, really do appreciate you following along. So yeah, if you've liked the video, please make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for future videos and future podcast episodes as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.